This is Fish from 93Q Radio, and this is our 93Q podcast studio. And today is going to be In the Tank with Fish. And in the tank with Fish today is Jackie Sillman. And I'm very excited about this, not just because it's really the first one in this series, but because I've known Jackie for a long time, and I've had an opportunity to just watch her, like Jackie does, be everywhere in the community at like the same time. But what I wanted to do was talk about, because Jackie's lived here for a long time, so I want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of get to know Jackie, right? So we're going to start with when you were born, right? You never asked her. It's like,
I don't think you're supposed to ask a lady that, but, you know.
So we'll just say that you're years old, right?
Okay,
And it's like we're moving on from that.
Yeah.
But you grew up here, and that's
I
what I
did.
want to talk about.
Good. Well, absolutely. Well, I'm just like a lot of folks that did grow up in Marysville. My dad was military, Bill Air Force Base. Came out from Shreveport, Louisiana. I was 5 years old. I have two older brothers who came out with us with two dogs and my mom in a station wagon. And she tells the story, and I know that you've heard this, and Patty's heard it. Wait a minute, where am I going? And when you drive down North Bell Road in the old days, you know, it was nice and everything, but the base is 12 miles away from anything.
Yeah.
So we arrived at Bill Air Force Base. We were there for another 5 years. And that was, you know, as a kid. My mom and dad, he retired. He was with the, is it the SR-71? That was one of the first ones.
SR-71, yeah.
Yeah, he came out as a crew chief and got out of the service. We were going back. We're going back to Texas or Louisiana or somewhere in the South. And my dad ended up being a Marysville policeman for 20 years.
Well, I didn't know that.
I
There
know.
was really?
20 years, went from a totally different career. And back in those days, again, I think we're talking 65.
Mm-hmm.
So they would put you into the academy. They paid for it. So Marysville PD paid for his school. He ended up being a policeman and tried to be a cop's daughter in this small little town when there was bars all the way down the street. And I was told never to drive down that street. And so every Friday and Saturday night, I drove down those streets. So, growing up in Marysville was great. Going to Yuba City, you know, we do a cruise. But, yeah, so I'm now 64. I love this life I've had.
Yeah.
My mom is still with us. And we ended up having 12 years after I was born, and my sister Mary Jane came along. So Mary Jane is 12 years younger, so she's the fourth of the family as far as that. And she works at Frank M. Booth. She was another one. I want to stay local. We both did. We just, I don't know what, we just ingrained to this town, and she's very much a Marysville girl.
So I want to back up just a little bit. So if I'm hearing you did the Marysville cruise.
I did it.
You did. You were doing
night after night. Yeah, and I can see the '65 Mustang and my friend Linda Larkham. I can see us driving it. Yeah, and you do the cruise. You went to McDonald's at that time. You'd make the turn at McDonald's and come down, and I think it's All Right Market, what it used to be, and you'd take the turn and Slough House Road. You know, did a little racing. Sorry, Dad. You know, for some reason I think he knew everything I did.
So did you go to Marysville High?
I did. I went to, Covalad. I started at Covalad, and then we moved to East Marysville. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, we're moving to East Marysville. That was like a big step up, supposedly.
I was going to say.
Again, we're talking 1969, 70. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to East Marysville. And we grew up on Sampson, which was great. Then I went to Kynoch and McKinney, and then I ended up going through Marysville High School. Yeah. But I tell you, and I laughed because the other day somebody said, you know, how do you learn all the things that you've done in the networking? And I said, you know, I have a degree in life.
Yeah.
Again, at 64, you can say that. You know, at 34, you really can't say that.
No.
And so I really enjoy that piece of it.
So, Jackie, at any point, like as a young girl in high school, did you like, I'm going to do that? I mean, was there a point in your life you said, well, I'm going to do that? What was the I'm going to do that for Jackie?
Gosh, Fish, if you only knew. No. 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 In fact, I wanted out of school so bad. I hated school. And I wanted to go to work.
Boy, we're the same way there.
Oh,
it was
so
like,
true.
I
Yeah.
just want to go do something.
I got my diploma, but I didn't walk across the stage, I did. My dad, I'll tell you, my dad said at 16, if you hate school that bad, you still have to, get your GED, or you're going to have to figure out a way to get your diploma, but I'll allow you to go to work. And he did. And I went to work at 16 at High's Restaurant, which some of the old timers probably know is right there on the corner of, I think it's E, 7th and E, 6th and E. And I was a waitress for many, many years. Yeah, but I got my GED right away. I was like, yay! But then I went back and I really did a lot with Marysville High School. So I
have to ask you, are there quite a few people that you've known most of your life that live here? I mean, that kind of relationship, because people talk about, well, I moved around a lot, right?
Right.
But there comes some time when you make friends that end up staying your friends, right?
Yeah.
And then throughout life, they're there and part of, the learning curve, if you will, of life. So do you have ones that you could say, I've known them 30 years?
Well, it's funny. I think about Carole King and that tapestry, the tapestry of my life. It's so serious. And I would hear that over and over again, and I think about that. I have friends that I've known for 45 years. Again, I have a gal, Angela Burrows. Her dad was a fireman, and we grew up together. Donna Beeler. Yes, a lot of girlfriends. And I don't see, you remember childhood and you remember where you were at that moment. Then I will see one of them at Casa Carlos. And it's like we never missed a beat.
Yes.
Talking about our kids and, what's going on in life. And we all look back. We all look back and go, gosh, I wonder what direction I would have went, or, if I did.
Yeah.
But that was just never my motivation. I don't know why. Very close-knit family, I guess that's part of it. But there are so many women here that have been so successful, and they stayed here, but they've really done well.
So you kind of grew up in that era where women were trying to find their place.
Yeah.
And it was very herky-jerky and awkward. Some things changed quickly. Mm-hmm. Other things, it just seemed like the proverbial glass ceiling. That's not going to change. Was that really the same in a small town like Marysville? Were those elements still here, and you had to kind of walk through those?
I think yes. I think a lot of that, when you reflect back and you look at this tapestry, I think at 19, I was invited to a women organization, and I didn't think much about it. That's nice. At 19, I was working. By that, I was 16. I was a pro by 19, right, as a waitress. But they had invited me, and these were women who worked at Fremont Rideout Health Group. These were high level, in my 19-year-old mind, level women that worked in our community, and they were I felt very powerful. Dee Dee Brady, through Comcast. I mean, she was such a mentor. She still is a mentor to me. She's running a TV station in Yuba City. It was just amazing. So I learned a lot about women's rights. Even in the 70s, they were still pretty tight. They still are in some respects, but I learned a lot about lifting women up, never putting them down, always making sure that, women and men, but especially women. I'm afraid to tell you that women can be pretty darn catty. And
really?
Yes. So
I've never noticed that.
We try to move that along a little bit, but I've learned that at 19.
Well, I've seen you with Len, and we're going to talk about Len for a minute here. That
that man I've been with for 45 years.
So,
45 years.
And it's like I've watched how you are, and when we think of someone that promotes women, unfortunately, in mainstream, there are feminists or anti-male.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any of those qualities. You are a great promoter of women, but you don't seem to have a negative attitude towards men. I mean, you like me. What can I say?
Well, watch
Or
out. Watch
that's
out. Your
still-
wife's in the audience, so we got to watch out.
So tell
that's
me
funny.
about meeting Lynn.
Well, let me tell you, I think I'm going to give credit to my dad. My dad was always that way, always treated women with respect, and he opened the door, and wonderful with my mom. But even as a policeman, I remember having some struggles when I was a little bit older, and I lived on my own in an apartment, and, you know, girls fight and all that. And I just remember my dad, all the conversations that he taught me, you know, you need to lift each other up. You need
Yeah.
to not do that. And especially men, I just never, at 19, again, the women that were in that organization, that wasn't their motivation. It was to empower women to create their own destiny. It wasn't about women to turn around and, you know, I want that job because the man has it. That wasn't the motivation.
Yeah.
So I guess I got on the right path early on. So that was never, because there are a lot of women out there that do that, and that turns me right off. I just
My
don't like
experience with you is because I'm a promoter of community, and
Yes,
you seem
you
to be a person that promotes those that promote others. Right? It's
love
like
it.
it's like in your makeup is I'm going to promote people that I know are going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So really you're already putting in to the next generation what
I
was
hope
put in
so.
you, and I just think that I marvel at that because not everybody's thinking that, and at
Right.
the same time I can see you as very forward thinking. You know, Jackie, you're not like looking back and regretting your past. It doesn't seem to be part of your makeup. You know,
Oh, boy.
you're like
I don't want to relive it.
yeah.
No,
I'm the
just kidding.
same way. I'm done. I've been there.
And we talked about that, you know.
You want to go back to being a
Yeah.
teenager? No.
Yes, I did in hell. It's true. I'm not going to lie about it, but I did. You know what? And I truly believe this. You know, I had lots of struggles with my mom. You know, it's just the way it is in life. Moms sometimes and daughters. But my dad was that man role model.
Were you a daddy's girl?
You know, not as much as my little baby sister.
Oh, of course,
which,
because the baby,
hell,
the baby of the family.
yeah,
we
she
all
was
know
5 and we all left, you know, so she got a different set of parents than we did. My older brothers and I talk about it all the
Totally
time.
understand.
Who are these people? But no, he was in his own way, you know. I was that problem child, not problem in drugs or alcohol, or I was just that one that my dad said one time, he goes, I think you would choose to just get in trouble instead of just being honest about what you're going to go do. Just tell me I'm going to go racing at the river bottoms. But no, you have to go do it and wreck the car and do, you know.
Yeah, and then I find out.
Yeah, but it just that one of those good role models.
So there is this thing that we hear, right? So you marry your father, or as a guy, I marry my mother. And there are qualities in my wife, I can tell you, are absolutely the same as my mom's. My
Yeah.
wife has got a smile that lights up a room.
Yeah.
When she smiles, it changes
I agree.
everything. And she loves to read.
Yeah.
My mom was a voracious reader, and
Yeah.
Patty's the same way. So I know there's qualities. So what about Lynn? Would you say is like
Okay,
your dad?
well, all right. Well, if we're going to be honest, my dad was a drinker, and no, I'm kidding. Let's see. You know what? That's really funny you say that because again, okay, let's look back. I'm 16. I want to work. I just wasn't fitting in school. My dad's like, okay, we're going to do this, but you will get your diploma. You have to do this. Okay, good. Got through that. And then I went to work. Well, I met Lynn. I was working as there was a deli across the street, and it used to be where Fremont Rideout, part of it is. And I met him, and he owned the upholstery hut across the street. Now, mind you, I'm 20 years old, and Lynn is 18 years older. So I met a guy who's 38 years old. I'm 20.
What
and
a
my dad's
sly
like,
dude.
what in the world? And I said, but it's just one of those things. And here we are 45 years later.
Yeah.
We've been together. But I always needed that security that, you know, and I'm not, so he was a lot like my dad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In that world. And Lynn was always that, you know, pushing me forward. Go into your PR school. Go to Yuba College. Go. do whatever you need to do for whatever you want to do. And that's where so I probably did marry my dad in a different way, but yeah.
Well,
for sure.
It's just qualities. There's qualities
Security,
we see in people as we grow up. We go, I like that.
I never had to worry. Honestly, I didn't probably have to work, but he encouraged me to for myself. Not because we needed it, but it was for Jackie's self-esteem.
So
I was very shy at one time.
I want to know, how did Lynn pop the question?
Oh my gosh.
Right? How did that happen?
Well, let me tell you again, alcohol. No, I'm kidding. So I will share the Cortez room. So the upholstery hut used to be on the corner of 4th and G.
Uh-huh.
And Mary's, well, actually, let me go back. It was where Mervin's, which Habitat is at right now. There used to be a strip of small businesses there, and he started there. Then he moved over to 4th and G, and
I met him when he was on Sutter Street. He did a hot rod for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then River Bottoms, July 4th, 1978. I met him, and we just hit it off, and it was just one of those. Honestly, I think it was more of, let's just get married. It wasn't really like, it wasn't on your knees or any of that, because I'm not sure. He was older, 18 years older, getting up off those knees. But I laugh now because he just retired.
Lynn, I just thought you.
I mean, I'll tell you, he just retired. And I said, well, now I'm the sugar mom and he's the pool boy, right? So roles have reversed in 45 years. So anyway, no, he's good. He's a good man. But again, he didn't grow up here. He grew up in San Bernardino. He came here. He had a first marriage. But Lynn and I both of us were like, this is quality of life. Mm-hmm. And this is, you're not going to live here to make a lot of money. You're going to live here to have a quality of life. You're going to have a good church. You're going to raise your kids. You're going to have great health care. But if you're looking, to be a millionaire, this isn't the town for you. So he made a very good living.
Big break in music, but they tell me I have to go to L.A.
Well, there you go, right? Yeah, and then that's why I love what I've done over the years. Fremont Rideout, I was there 13 years and learned all about healthcare and relationships.
I didn't know you worked there.
I was there 13 years, and I started there. A friend from high school saw me. I was working at the Bonanza by that point, working in the restaurant, in the dining room. And boy, do I have stories about the Bonanza back in the day, in the evening time. But anyway, so she saw me
We're going to have to do a series of podcasts.
You might have to listen to my podcast to hear all of this. But
which we're going to talk about that when we get there. But.
It was so funny. She just said, why, goodness, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know. I'm just kind of liking it. She goes, come to work in admitting in the emergency room, of all places. Okay, why not? Oh my goodness, did I learn a lot in the emergency room. And then one day, medical records had an opening, and I thought, I'll try that. I honestly have to be challenged. Can you tell? I need to be challenged and just go in my life.
Not be bored. Yes.
Yeah, so you work, and so I went to medical records, went over to X-ray and worked there for a while. And then the next thing I know, I'll never forget it, Deb Coulter, she said, you need to be in public relations. And I went, I do? She goes, oh, look at, yes.
Yeah.
So I started public relations at Fremont Rideout. Yeah, so that was really good. And then full circle, now I sit on the hospital board. So,
that's fun.
Again, just full circle moments that, I worked there. Now I serve to make things better for the staff that works there.
So when I met you, I was actually on talk radio.
Yes.
And I met you. And what you were doing intrigued me because you had a job with Recology that to me was a step above typical PR, because you were literally reaching into the community, which is what I wanted to do.
Right.
It's like how do we help the community get closer together, for lack of a better term? Mm-hmm. And what I don't know, you can tell me what your job title, what you did was, but what I picked up was that you got involved with nonprofits and organizations that were trying to make a difference. Again, helping those that are willing to help others, reaching out to that. And you were literally doing these spaghetti dinners. And it was just crazy,
evenings,
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you get a job like that, right? And so,
How do you get a job like that? Yeah, you create it. You create it.
yeah. So is that what happened?
Pretty much. Well, it was interesting. So, a good friend of mine, Julie Eckerd, worked there, and she wanted to go to work at Sutter Health. So she called me on the phone. She goes, "Hey, I'm leaving Recology," and she's doing recycling coordinating, and just talking about the, reduce, reuse, recycle. This is before the 3-cart system. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's an idea." Here again, I needed to be challenged. So I applied. Doug Sloan at the time, Terry Bentley. I went and interviewed, and honestly, I thought, I didn't do it. There's no way they're going to hire me. I don't know. It was just one of those weird days. I got to my car in the parking lot, and they came out and offered me the job. And it was like, okay, now I'm thinking, oh my God,
now
what am I going to do? I don't know anything about recycling. My husband deals with the garbage, and
Yeah, exactly.
So it was, it really was kind of a creation. But what people don't understand is Recology is the exclusive contract, of course, for all of 6 jurisdictions here. So it was my job to make sure, number one, everybody understands the importance of recycling. And the second thing was, we are the only game in town. You need to give back to your community. So that's where that kind of started. We had the grad night golf tournaments that gave back to the school, all schools. And then we would do the same thing with the spaghetti dinners. It would go back to the nonprofits. So for that 20 years that I was there,
wow,
that was really my introduction into all those nonprofits that I serve today. So the food bank and the hospital and, working with the chamber. It was all part of that, just thanking the community for allowing us to be the exclusive. Your rates aren't the lowest in town. We know that. But when we go in for a contract talks or any of that, the community showed up in masses to support us because we're supporting you. So that's, I think, where it turned for me. Where at the hospital, we did health fairs and different things, but we didn't really touch the nonprofits like we did at Recology.
Which is a whole different thing. Well,
yes.
I know that I ended up here with 93Q, which gave me an opportunity because doing LPFM is different than commercial radio. We don't really write commercials. And so I had written commercials for the other station, and so I pitched you on these these spots that were 2 minutes long, right? Which is unheard
was it
of.
Recycle Ranger? I can't even remember what it was.
Rickology, Sheriff Rickology.
Rickology.
And you knew some local actors, and we got them to play the parts. It was absolutely fun. So I wrote a series of 3 of them. But what we did was we tied it in with the way things were changing with recycling.
Yes.
So we were able to tell people what was there through a story.
You did. And let me tell you, 93Q, I will never forget it because that's when we were rolling out the 3-cart system, if you remember that as well. So, of course, here's the community goes from this big 96-gallon cart you put everything in, and you go to a little bitty gray cart, but nobody would see the big picture. But you got a big 64 blue, and you get a big green. Nobody could see it. They were like, "I'm not doing your work for you." Throwing tomatoes at us, right? but with Recology and with we did the Thaddeus the Muth and I'm a Green Waste. We had these characters that we built. And this is another full circle moment. Scott Perdini, who was at the time our general manager at Recology when we did this together with Terry Bentley. And it was 2000 when we rolled it out. And then, 9/11 was 2001. Okay, sorry, 2001. It was September 10th. We were rolling out those carts, big splash in the newspaper, and I'll be darned, the next day was September 11th. And it just shut down it was just like, you're on such a high, and then we were on such a low. It was just crazy.
Kind of like COVID.
And it's one of those things, I know. So it's one of the things you remember. It was like, it was really good, but then we were like, okay, we're not going to go out for a month or so. We're just going to let people, you got enough on your mind. We're not going to go talk about that. But I remember that being like that point. But what about you? I think we should talk about you a little bit.
Well,
because, let's talk about where you started. Now, when I met you, you're out at
I was at KMYC. And the way I ended up out there was I was a pastor, and another pastor was doing a rock and roll show.
See, I never knew that he was a pastor until years later.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I tried.
Pretty cool,
I tried
Pastor.
to act like one. Right? The act didn't work. It's like they said, "You're
Yeah.
not very religious."
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just me. So this guy said, "Hey, Fish, you know a lot about rock and roll." I was down in L.A. When I was 19 with a guy that was trying to get his music produced, and met a lot of people like Frank Zappa and Harry Nilsson.
Oh, my brother would love you.
And so it was really kind of an interesting time. Well, he said, "Come over here, and I'm doing this rock and roll show and talking about Jesus." And I said, so I went over there, and I found out, right, that I actually liked it. And I remember as a kid, I listened to Johnny Rabbit in St. Louis. It was called Blab It to the Rabbit. And kids would call in. And this guy,
to the rabbit.
Blab It to the Rabbit.
I like it.
And they would call in. So I thought, well, I'd like to do that, right? So I'm having this guy.
Okay.
Well, the guy decides he's not doing the show anymore. So he goes to the owner of the station. He said, "Hey, can Fish do that show?" And he said, yeah, let him do it, right? I went from 1 hour to 6 hours.
Wow.
Taking requests. And I did things like, I remember this little gal, Amber, used to call every Saturday and say, "Would you play Steve Miller?" Mm-hmm. And I would be like, "Well, Amber, did you do your homework?" "Well, yeah, I did it, Fish." And I said, "Put your mom on the phone."
There you go.
So I'd get the mom on the phone. I said, "Did Amber do her homework?" "Yeah, Fish, she got it done." "All right, Steve Miller's the Joker going out for Amber in Marysville." Right? It's like, boom, we'd play the music, right?
Very cool.
And to me, it was
Yeah.
really fun. So later, I heard that there was a restaurant in town that if you bought a hamburger, you could order a song.
Here in Marysville?
Yeah, and I think Yuba City or Marysville
I'll be
won.
darned.
And I thought, what a clever thing. Now, I haven't quite transitioned that to here, right?
Ooh,
but
yeah.
the thought is there. So I was over there for I forget how many years, and then in 2015 we had an opportunity for an FM station
Right.
that was pointed towards community. So I went to the college and took a research class on LPFMs, and I found out that John McCain had pushed for low power FMs because what happens is commercial radio goes into an area and they literally buy up the area.
Okay.
They cover the airwaves. And the problem with that is that a lot of local stuff doesn't happen and doesn't get on the air because they do national advertisers. And that. So John McCain pushed that there would be a voice for the community. And when I heard that, I went, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So we built this station. I've been pushing that ever since. That's the thing. I want the community to hear about people that are in the community.
And you do, yeah, it's phenomenal. We're really blessed with 93Q. You know, KMYC radio, I remember, of course, as a kid, that's what we listened to in the 70s.
Yeah.
And we would call into the station, and my girlfriend and I, I think at Marysville High School at one time, I think there was, you know, like now you have it out at Lyndhurst and you have the kids and the interns, but I think KMYC was like the only game in town. It was many years later when Bob Harlan came to town, if I can remember. But, you know, that was it, KMYC, or we'd listen to San Francisco, you know, Wolfman Jack, and I'd go up to Englebright. So my parents...
the real Don Steele?
Yeah,
Did you listen to the real Don Steele?
Oh, yeah. So my parents had a houseboat at Englebright. Right as soon as we moved into Marysville, they bought a houseboat. And so, of course, as a kid, at first, it's fun when you're like 10 and 11, but when you're 15 and 16, you want to see boyfriends and stuff. It's like, oh, I got to go to the houseboat. But I could never get the radio to work because, you know, there was the old days.
Yeah.
So my dad would, you know, hook it up with the aluminum foil, and the only station we could get was so weird. It would be a San Francisco station and not KMYC. And so it was always really, you know, just funny.
So do you have a particular memory of a song from your youth that you go, every time I hear that song, it takes me back?
There's so many, but when I just recently went to see Beautiful, the Carole King story, every single song I could sing. You know, it was just, that was me. I had the long hair, and it was curly like hers, and there's so many. Steve Miller again, he's a little bit later, but John and Oates, you know, just all of them. You know, I'm a mellow 70s.
So you like yacht
classic
rock.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you'd like yacht rock, right?
Well, don't they call it, and then back in my day, I think it was called bubblegum music. I like the bubblegum music.
Well,
yeah, I'm a bubblegummer, but
Yeah.
I like country too now, so.
Well,
yeah, but my husband, who here, I would think, oh, don't you like 40s music?
Yeah.
Of course, he gets really mad when I say that, but he's like, he is he's like you. He loves that
rock.
He
Play
listens-
a lead guitar and you drive me
classic
absolutely
vinyl.
crazy.
Yeah. We fight when we get in the car on the radio. We're like, nope, I'm not listening to that. Can't do it. Yeah.
My wife was very into music, which I didn't really know when I first met her, but she went to the Rolling Stones in San Francisco when they first came to America.
Oh my gosh. That's a memory.
And then later on, she went to, my son bought her, I think it was called the No Security Tour, so she got to go to that. And she's like, much older, but still moving.
Well, we're all still moving. I just such good memories. And again, that's why, I do appreciate about the podcast. And I don't know where we're going to go with for my podcast, but I do want it to be about you, who you are, whoever that you is. There's so many stories, like you said. A lot of people know me. They really don't know that, I was that crazy child that my dad was like, what am I going to do?
I always
with that
suspected
girl?
that, Jackie. I just never said it.
Well, I know. I almost feel like getting my sister on here and letting us just go.
Oh,
at it,
yeah, you should
just
do
let us
that.
go. That 12 years difference is so funny because, that decade is a big
It is.
thing.
It's huge. And
When you're
younger,
it's really huge. And now it seems like it's, that where we're taking care of mom and we're doing things together. But, it's interesting. And she was the only one of our family that did go off and get her master's and works in high level, and she's we're just so tickled about it. We kind of call her a grandkid, but that's okay. It's all good.
So I want to talk about, you're going to be doing a podcast on here. So I'm going to be doing this one. Which
Yes.
My goal is to.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I got to get that splash of that
they're going to have to get that effect in
I know.
there.
Yeah.
And then, when I first started, and I was doing, and it was just audio, right? But before we did the video, I did a thing where I said, "You're in the fish tank." So
Yeah.
when people would come in, I'd interview them. I'd say, "What dive are you going to do?"
Oh, I love
and
it.
I'd tell them they were diving off the top of the Hart Building, right?
Yeah.
And into the fish tank. And so they'd say, well, I'm doing a jackknife, double flip, whatever, right? And they do it. And we had the splash sound. So I'd hit that, right? And it was kind of a
Perfect.
And then I got a call and said, you can't tell people that people are jumping off the top of the Hart Building.
But I think we should.
I said, well, it's like we're only on the third
Yeah.
floor. Can we do it from the third floor now,
Yeah.
right? But I want to talk about, you're going to be doing a show
Yeah.
here. So I'll do In the Tank, and I'm going to focus on business, right? But you're going to focus on people in the community.
Yeah, when you asked me to do this, I was thinking at first, oh gosh, I do love doing the women, but there's so many men and women that have such a really cool story. And so, like, my first guest is going to be Chief Bree Oliver out at Bill. And I think we're missing the boat. Well, I guess not a boat. We're missing the airplane.
Yeah.
Whatever. With Bill Air Force Base, one of the largest employers
Yeah.
we have here. And we just don't engage like we probably should. So, out of the blue, through my job at Yuba Water Agency, I've just really connected with the base. So she's my first guest. She's I'm not real sure of her age, but I think she's maybe 42. She's already been in 22 years in the Air Force, and she's
Wow.
one of 6 enlisted females in the United States Air Force. 6. And she's right here at Bill Air Force Base.
Wow.
And if you thought I was, going 100 miles an hour, she's like 500 miles an hour. So trying to keep up with her and she's very much community. So her community's inside of Bill Air Force Base, and my community's outside of Bill Air Force
that's
Base.
perfect.
So we've come together to connect. So I'm connecting her with the schools and with the healthcare and with the radio. And how do we get the word to those airmen? There's so much out here in Yuba Sutter.
I've thought about that. I actually connected with the PAO out there early on when I was still doing military.
Yeah.
And offered them a radio show. But then COVID, everything else,
Yeah.
right? But because I know as a young airman, like, people don't realize it, but a lot of young airmen, they don't have cars. They can't just go
Correct.
to town. So they're on this base that's
Has nothing.
semi-remote, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't somebody do a bus service, right,
Yeah.
from out there, right? And just bring them into town or whatever. But I do agree with you. It seems like there's a disconnect. And so, yeah, I push forward with that, wanting to help that. The reason I offered them a weekend show is so that they can talk about what's going on at Beale, and the kids at Beale can see what's
Right.
going on in the community. How can we make that happen?
I think what's happened, and this is where I've learned, is that you have the civilian side and you have the military
Yeah.
side. You have 5 different missions that sit on Beale Air Force Base. The other day here, I'm thinking, hey, do you know so-and-so, Bree? And she's like, no. I said, well, he's on the base. She goes, there's 3,900 people
That's it.
on the base. And I
That's
went,
it.
well, he works in so-and-so. And she's like, that's not my, so I've learned that. So a lot of times when you were saying I connected with so-and-so, that person then didn't connect with this one.
Exactly.
So we finally have a continuity of, like the colonel, when it's every 2 years all over the United States. This is something that I learned. The commanders leave every 2 years. And there's a reason why. They're moving up the chain, just like a CEO in a company. So they're moving up. And so we get a new one, right? And they pretty much follow what was already going on, but they do make changes. So a lot of times what happened in Yuba and Sutter counties, they just got tired of trying to figure out, who's next. So we lost that continuity. And so with the water agency in Yuba County, and all the growth that we're going to be having,
Yes.
we need them, they need us. So we thought, let's start this new. So now Colonel Church, Chief Oliver, they'll be leaving in 2 years, but they've already set up the succession planning.
So it can go, yeah.
Yeah, so when
good.
Bree leaves and I don't have her, or Kelly Givicki doesn't work with her anymore, then that whoever does come in, that'll be our new person. So for that, I'm excited. But her story about, I don't want to share anything because it's so good, and we'll be talking for an hour, and I want you to hear it.
So
But
it'll be July 12th.
July
We're gonna tell
12th will
people
be our
July 12th will be the
first one, and we're not sure what we're going to call it yet, but I think it's community with a U, YOU. There's other ladies here that have done. Let's talk about etiquette. I know that sounds really, but young girls do not know how to dress for jobs. Young girls, again, we talk about this mentorship. And the etiquette of conversation, the etiquette of looking you in the eye, the etiquette of shaking your hand, just small little things like that, there's a lady that is here, and I haven't confirmed her yet, so I don't want to say, but she taught me, honestly. When I worked at the Bonanza, I worked with I don't know if anybody remembers Hildegard Schultz, but she was very much head to toe. Your makeup had to be perfect. You don't come into work looking sloppy. And so I think a lot of...
So forgive the Hawaiian shirt. I was just...
Well, you're not on my show every time, right?
I'll wear a tux.
So those are the kind of U's that I want to look for. And I want to look for, then there's just so many ideas out there. I'm bursting at the seam trying to figure out who's next.
Well, I'm excited because you have an opportunity to bring people on that have been in the area for a while, as well as ones that haven't, but you have this opportunity. It's who you know. Right. But then we get to know them. And so that's the whole goal. So you do the show and they get an opportunity, and like we said, it'll be coming up July 12th. But you're going to do a monthly. So I think it's great because then people get a chance to, because when we do the interviews on 93Q, it's 15 minutes. And even if we run longer, it's a who, what, where, and why, and let's move on. And so you don't get a sense of who that person is and the relationship. And even my thinking in bringing you on as the first one, it's like, well, because Jackie is multifaceted, some people know one facet but not the other. Right. And now I know it's Jackie, the wild child Sillman. I know a different Jackie, right? And it's like, but it's this thing where you're well connected in the community because you've been here. And you do know people that are making a difference and have been here long term to make a difference. They're not a flash in a pan. On the other hand, like bringing in the chief from the Air Force, somebody that's put 22 years in, right? Has invested her life in a military life. And I've been military, so I know that is changing other people's lives by being in a position where they have opportunity to do that. I just want to touch real quick because you talked about mentoring, and you're involved with an organization that does leadership. Is that just for women? What is that?
Lead Yuba Sutter? No.
Is that what it is?
Well, I'm quite a few things. We have a day for women that we do. That was a very we're going in on our third year, but that's very generic to invite women to the Hard Rock. We have a guest speaker to uplift you. You know what? Every all of us are going through something. Might be a little different than what you're going through, but here's some tips. Here's some advice. You know, you're loved. We're here. Reach out to your fellow sister or brother, and so the Day for Women. Lead Yuba Sutter is it is a great. It's through the Chamber of Commerce. I was in it 25 years ago, but I stayed with it. This is building leadership for the community, for city council roles, to serve on a school board.
Yes.
So we just went through a class for that. You know, I serve on Adventist Health and the governance committee, and I'll tell you, it's very interesting to see the inside of an organization on the financial side.
Yeah.
And this is where my heart is full, because I'm working with Bill Air Force Base. Their spouses are not covered on the base.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know, right? What you don't know, you don't know. So they're driving to Lincoln and Roseville and Rockland or wherever to get childcare and health care. And I'm like, did they not know we're over here? We have, but we don't have enough. Adventist organization, Sutter Health, we don't have enough care providers. So we need 24 care providers to come into Yuba and Sutter counties in the next 5 years. How do we do that? That's where my life is heading now. It's like, what's that next step? How do we recruit? Well, you recruit the physicians by the quality of life that we have. We can't.
Exactly.
You're not going to make, again, if you get out of school and you want to work with us for 5 or 10 years to get, be a physician, then move on. But we have to reinvent ourselves. We have to commit ourselves. Food bank, I never even dreamed I'd be involved in food insecurity. I don't think it really is food insecurity. It's the food recovery. We have more food than we know what to do with, and we can't get it out fast enough.
Well, I tell people we live on an island.
We do.
In the middle of agriculture. You cannot drive out of here and not hit agriculture and water.
Costco coming on.
Yeah.
There's another 6 days a week of food recovery. Well, you got to have trucks. And so working on that level to figure out how do we raise funds to buy another truck to get it's mind-blowing. So I've gone from, my kids' PTA, I did all of that, and I did the boosters, and I was Little League, and now it's just I want to give back in that direction. But every connection that I have, it's at the point now where Megan at Hard Rock will say, hey, well, you're the guru of this. Who does this? Who does that?
Yeah.
And I love it. And so I'm sitting back going, gosh, I am glad that I did what I did and how I did it, and, no regrets kind of thing. But
I used to complain that I didn't. How come I didn't go to work for PG&E and work 30 years and retire?
Yeah.
But I'd have been bored.
I don't think I can ever retire.
Yeah, I love being able to do different things, moving on. Even here, we've gone way beyond radio, right? And we're gonna keep going. So the mission doesn't change. I get what I'm doing. I want to connect the community. I want to provide positive impact as a voice in the community that says this is who we are.
Right.
I don't want to be compared to the national narrative when I don't see the national narrative here. I don't want to bring that here. I would rather take what we have here and push it out there.
And I've been asked so many times to get into politics. For years I was pushed, and I am. I'm a planning commissioner for Yuba City. I'm the elected city clerk for Yuba City, but I just don't see how you can touch and heal and serve that direction. I feel like the way we're doing it, way you do it on the radio and you connect, you're connecting every day with somebody.
Yeah.
So you're doing exactly that. And I think that if we had more of that here and like you said, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to connect somebody else with somebody else with somebody else.
Well, and that was and I don't even remember how long ago I started talking to you about Jackie let's do something, right?
Oh, I know.
And
Yeah.
a long time ago, and then I got sick, and at the time I did, so did John. And so you came on the air and did the interviews for us.
It was so much fun.
And I just went, she needs to be on the air or something. But I really think the podcast is going to be better than, I mean, you can do airtime. That's obvious. You can do interviews. And if I ever get sick or just want to take off, I'm calling you. But
okay, well, we'll talk.
Let you know, right? But this, I think it gives you opportunity to really bring on the people you'd like to bring on.
I'm so excited
Make the
about that.
connections that you want to make. And again, I want to tell people that'll be July 12th will be Jackie's first show. You know, I don't know. Here, maybe Jackie should give you her email address, and then you could make suggestions for what
I
should
love
Jackie
that.
call her show, right? And but it'd be a great opportunity. She's going to make sure that the guests she's getting, the first one she said is Bree Oliver, Chief Master Sergeant with the Air Force out of Beale. What a great opportunity for us to connect with that neighbor. But then she knows so many other people. I was like giving her a list. You're going to get Marnie Sanders on here. How about Dee Dee Cordell?
Exactly.
Or I can't. Sandy Drown.
There's too many to name. We only have one a month. Or maybe we have two a month.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
we
might
bring in
have
an
to
extra
do-
chair and we just gab. But
Yeah.
you know, just like you, Fish, you know, I hope you know you're an icon here. You have established something that community talks about all the time. I think a lot of it's your love of being a pastor. You come across as just that. So
Hey, don't ask my wife, okay? What,
okay,
because
yeah,
I'm
I
different
already
at
know.
home.
We've talked before, but no.
She is not one of the women you're bringing on.
The opportunities that you bring to our nonprofits. But I hope that I do you proud. Yes, I do want to, anybody that would be interested in that, I'd love to hear their stories. And that's what it's going to be about. It's not going to be about Jackie. And I'm glad you asked about me, and we're all good there.
Well, that's why we
But
did this.
I
We're
know.
getting Jackie out of the way.
I don't want to talk about Jackie, but I want to hear from them. And another thing with Bree Oliver, you know, she talks, because we were talking about, you know, recruiting in the Air Force. The Marines and the Army are full.
Yeah.
But yet the Air Force, for some reason, so I do want her to talk about that, you know, because I think that, I don't know with the young kids out there, there's so many opportunities. You can go to a trade school, you can go to college for free now. But if that's not your thing, like me at 16, I was not in the right frame. Lucky I had my dad say, okay, you can do this, but you got to do that. I think that's the same for, honestly, I think that for the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, whatever. I think we need to get back to some of that for, you know, get your career or not. Go for 4 years, but you're going to get some learning, like streets, what I was saying before, a degree in life. Get started there and then move on. And she feels that way too. She loves what she does, but, you know, she's at that age where she can go do something else.
I was 17 when I graduated from high school because they graduated me out of
Oh, he's
summer
throwing it
school.
in that he graduated. He didn't have to get his GED. No,
I
I'm
didn't.
just kidding.
But I had a friend who was writing music and was out here in California trying to get published, right? You know, and get his music out. So Don invites me out, and I come out here, and I had met this girl in St. Louis that lived out in California. We were in Southern California. She lived midway up, and so I thought, well, I'm going to go out and see my girlfriend and hang out with Don. Well, I ended up being out here for almost a year, and I was 19, and I told this girl, I'm going to go home and get whatever stuff I got left at home. I'm moving out here, right?
Yeah.
I went home and got my draft notice.
Oh,
during Vietnam,
wow.
right? So I got drafted, right? And then I was like, wow. So I had talked to an Air Force recruiter. So I went in and I said, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I got drafted in the Army. He said, no. He said, you already signed up. I said, I didn't already sign up. And he pushed this.
Ah, very cool.
So I signed up, right? He called the draft board and said, no, he's already in. And then next thing, I mean, it was like minutes, I was gone.
Yeah.
I spent my entire time overseas. And I think that experience, and that's why when you're talking about people going in, there is a side of me that wishes every young man and woman in this country would at least experience a couple years of the military. What a great opportunity.
Service, just for the service.
Yeah, and I don't think, I'd have gone in, I'd enlisted because my father was a patriot. He was a World War II veteran, and all us boys signed up. Every one of us
My
went
brothers,
in.
too.
Yeah, and so it was a different mentality, but still the things that are offered there and the opportunity to grow up, right? I hate
the
to say it, but
skills
learn
that
how to make your bed.
Exactly, and the skills that you're learning. 'Cause
Oh, my gosh.
I've met so many commanders now that talk about, and you've heard the story about the number one thing is you just make your bed. Just make your bed every day,
That's it.
and that's how your life is going to go.
I still fold my clothes like I was.
Is that true? I don't know. Yeah, no, she's shaking her head, yes. And I do know the story that you fell in love with your wife overseas, too.
I did.
He
met
tells
her.
that story quite well. So that's a good one for In the Tank. That's
I
for
will.
sure.
I should bring my wife in the tank.
I
but
think you should.
She has
She's
been
a little
in the tank
shy.
all her years.
Well, that's
she may
Lynn.
not be interested in the. Yeah, Lynn is a coming,
Lynn would
right?
just say, "Hey, have I told you today I love you?" That's what he tells everybody. Okay, Lynn, we know, we get it. But I love that about you. My brother was in Vietnam too, and he had. I think I told you that story. He was a crew chief, and he was, I think, in Thailand he was over in Thailand and named it the Miss Mary Jane, which is my sister. And of course, very first flight, it crashed. So it's like, okay, I guess that's it, Miss Mary Jane. That's all about you.
I'm changing it to Jackie.
But I love the stories that he brought back. And it wasn't gloom and doom. It was camaraderie.
Yeah.
It was, you're out in the desert together. And there's some really sad, we need to help and that's where my heart is too. I don't know what direction I'll go next in life, but I think the veterans that really need that support, the ones that you meet down at the stand down, these are guys and gals that they're not the homeless. They're making it, but they're verily making it. And it just breaks my heart.
It's very common for veterans, and I've talked to the VA and to other people that provide for veterans, and they say veterans will always say, no, give that to somebody that really needs it, even if they really need it. And so, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've worked with Mike and Rob with the Veterans Stand Down. I've had them on, and by the way, they have a fireworks booth if you guys want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But so listen, is there anything we've forgotten that you'd like to say about going on? Because I
didn't even realize what time. But no, I'm really excited about it. I hope it's what you envisioned. I think
It's exactly
okay,
what I mean.
good. All right. Well, the community, we're going to talk to you in the community. So if you have any ideas, please get a hold of me. And I'm going to give you my email address.
Okay, here you go.
It's so easy. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Jackie Sillman, 59, which tells you how old I am, at yahoo.com. There you go.
Yeah, I didn't.
And give me some ideas and I want to talk about you.
Yeah, people, and you. Community.
And I'm not taking it from Virgil, because I know he's unity, community.
And we're community.
Yeah,
we all got
all
something
community.
different on it, So again, I want to mention this. I want to thank Jackie for coming. I appreciate her. I've known her for a long time. She's a stand-up gal as well as a sit-down gal.
Well, and we got Kurt over here, who I worked with many years ago, but I don't think he remembers me. But
he's actually behind the camera. And but again, July 12th, Jackie will be starting. So if you get an opportunity, it'd be really good to send her an email.
Yeah.
Right. Jackie Sillman 59 at
Yahoo.
They still have that?
I know, Yahoo.
Do you have a MySpace?
No. Oh my gosh, no. And I'm a Facebooker, but that's about as far as I get. Maybe an Instagram, but.
So if there's somebody that has been in the community making a difference, you can get a hold of Jackie. And with me, you can get me at fish@93qradio.com. And I'm going to be doing In the Fish Tank. And that will start, it started today, but it'll be on Fridays. Fish on Fridays. Were you?
Yes.
Were you Catholic?
When I was in Bonanza, every Friday it was fish.
And so you get clam
and
chowder,
Thursdays
right?
was navy bean soup for some reason.
So fish on Fridays. So we'll be doing that, and that'll be coming up. And so I'll be shifting mine to coincide. So at this point, it's Jackie once a month.
On
Wednesdays, and I'll be once a month on Friday. If you're interested in doing a podcast, you can contact, again, fish@93qradio.com, and we'll hook you up because this is going to be fun.
I concur. Thanks.